Marines are all tough training. It helps to develop the discipline that they want.
In what primary occupational specialty did you train after boot camp? Where and for how long were you trained, and how effective was the training?
Well, Sea School had a lot of naval training since I was going to be a member of the Sea School program. But I got off in Kisco in the Aleutians and came back to the States, and then sent back overseas to the Transit Center.
Okay. What was your first duty station after receiving training, and what was your assignment?
The first assignment was in the Philadelphia Naval Yard, guard duty.
Okay, the court states that every Marine is a rifleman first. What is your opinion of that statement?
I have no problem with it.
Did you ever notice any animosity or rivalry between the Marines and other services? If so, describe how it manifested itself. Jokes, fights, so on and so forth.
Well, most of that negative things there would happen on Liberty sometimes with Navy and Marines having a little scrapple, but that's just what it was. They were friends.
Did you ever serve aboard ship?
Yes, on the U.S. cruiser Santa Fe.
Okay, you answered the second question. What was your feeling towards the Navy and the sailors aboard ship? What duties were you required to perform while aboard ship?
Well, the Marines on the ship were about 30, and about 1,300 Navy men, and we got along fine.
And what were your duties?
Guard duty on the 20 millimeters.
Okay, that's all you get. 3, 4, 5 questions you've already got answered, so we're going to check them off. Do you remember Pearl Harbor?
Yes.
Where were you when you received the news?
I was on my dad's porch, December 7th, 1941.
You already answered that question.
Yeah.
Why was there rationing? Didn't we already answer?
Yeah, I think so.
Recognition.
Received the Presidential Unit Citation and the Pacific Theater Citation and the Purple Heart.
Okay, you've already said you did serve in a war. Describe your uniform.
Mostly dungarees. I only had we'd go out on Liberty or something, we'd wear a tie and khaki shirt and pants.
How about the dress blue?
Didn't get the dress blues. They had stopped issuing them the day before I got to Sea School in Portsmouth, Virginia.
That's good to know, because that's never been, I did not know that. Okay, the food, particular food you liked?
Well, the food was fine. I didn't have any complaints much. A lot of folks did, but it was good to me.
Entertainment, what did you do when you were off duty?
Well, mostly if we were where we could get to a theater, we'd go to a movie. We had, I guess, when we were up there in Philadelphia, waiting for the USS cruiser Santa Fe to move out, we'd go on Liberty over to the city of Philadelphia, and they would have people from stage shows as well as movies.
Weather and geography in the area you served.
It was in the Aleutians. It was cold up that way in May, and I remember a storm. The armada of ships, battleships, cruisers, carriers, and destroyers in a storm one evening, and the waves were so high and down that the ships that would go up and down as you couldn't see them, then back up, and that was something that stayed with me and remembered that that ocean can be awfully strong.
Your job responsibility while in the service?
Well, mostly it was in my group that we either training most of the time or in special schools or whatever.
What were you doing when you heard you could go home?
Well, I was at Quantico, Virginia, where I was discharged on September 22nd, 1945, and I was elated.
Was your job waiting for you?
No, I came home and rested, recuperated for about 30 days, and then I went to business school in Greensboro.
What are some of the advantages of being a veteran?
Well, you have a feeling that of service to your country, because that's one thing that we were always taught, to love your country and appreciate the opportunity to do that.
Sorry.
It's all right. And then too, that veterans I meet across the country today, there's a special feeling toward each other.
What are some of the disadvantages?
I don't know of any disadvantage or negative things about being a veteran.
What do you feel is important to the future generations in this interview?
I think we're going to be in good shape. Our young people are developing well, and they're being trained well in the schools and home, and I feel like can be in good shape.
Do you have any particular memories about your life as a veteran that you would share?
Well, nothing particular, that it was a different way of life, and lived through it.
Okay.
I have one question, if you don't mind, and answer to Bill, if you would. If you had to explain in 2 or 3 sentences,
Look at me when you're talking.
Okay.
but in 2 or 3 sentences, if you had to explain to an elementary school student sometime in 10 years from now, how would you describe the World War II experience?
Say that again.
If you had to explain World War II and your experience during that conflict to an elementary school student, maybe 10 years from now, how would you do that in 2 or 3 sentences?
I would probably talk them similar to what I've said here today. We need to help the children to develop a nationalist feeling that their life here on earth is to help and support people, to make life easier for everyone as possible, and to develop kindness and consideration for people. That this can be accomplished through serving in the military as well. But because times are changing a great deal, and philosophy changes too, I would give them support and encouragement.
Do you have any other suggestions on, because back in the 40s, and of course I wasn't there, but it seems like you had a real passion for patriotism, the whole society. Do we still have that today?
It seems to be dividing a bit. It seems to be a bit more. We need to bring it back. You need to get the nationalist feeling that we're all one together. And when you have to fight different groups here at home to accomplish what you need to have done for the good of people, need to reconnoiter, like a playing football game. If that play didn't work, go back and get a bunch up and go back and play another one. But there's people as a whole want to feel safe and secure, and the only way to do it is for all of us to be that way. You don't want to be like a civil war fighting your brother.
Last question, I promise you. Very interesting man. What did we learn as a country? What one thing did we learn from World War II?
We learned that we could do it if we have to, old people, young people, whatever it takes to accomplish your objectives, and that it takes us all working together as a team. Have to have the team approach to all things, and that includes family, schools, any organization or nation.
Okay, I got a couple of questions if we got time.
Absolutely.
You know, you were showing me the pictures of the women in the military.
Yeah.
How do you think during World War II the women helped us win the war? Just tell me something. I know what you're going to say, I hope.
Well,
The women. What did they do?
the women gave you encouragement. They wanted to share too, and they did it by joining the service. They did it by working in war plants, and they were willing to show that they could do the same thing, and they're proving it.
All right, one other question. Do you think that people respect the national anthem like they did in the old days when they play the national anthem and you see it on TV and you see people don't pull off their hat, they just keep moving? Tell me a little bit about that.
That's sad. That's discouraging.
Can you put that in a word like, I think it's disrespectful for people to do?
It is very disrespectful, and the flag is a symbol. It's an image of our life, and when we put the flag up on Iwo Jima, we knew it was us.
Very good. Thank you. That makes me so mad when I go somewhere and they just.
Oh, it's just terrible.
I just want to.
Can we just expound on that just a little bit if you're comfortable with that? Can you just, again, as if you're talking to an elementary school, I mean, describe Iwo Jima. I mean, what was that like?
Iwo Jima?
Yes, sir. To Mule, please.
Iwo Jima was so different from Saipan and Tinian. Everything was underground. There were miles and miles and miles of caves and tunnels, and they could be shooting at you with just a machine gun from a concrete cave, and still be way back here because they only had room just for the barrel. They could aim it and you could scatter it. I was shot by a sniper same way on Iwo Jima, and the Iwo Jima was just a rolling island, about 8 square miles, all there was on it, with Mount Suribachi at the end, southwest end, and the sand of Iwo Jima was just almost like wheat. You couldn't dig a foxhole. You dig a hole, it'd fill back up on you. And what you learned there was that you had to try to save your life because you were out in the open. You were the ones they could see you, but you couldn't see them. And it was a terrible feeling. Lieutenant Donald Dickey got his arm shot off within 3 hours on Iwo Jima. Bill Algren, who died just recently, picked it up and laid his arm on his chest as he was carrying him off. It was a frightening place. You didn't know what was going to happen next, really. The terrain was not conducive to protection and whatever. And there were over 6,800 American lives lost and over 19,000 wounded on that little island, and around 26,000 Japanese killed. it's a haunting place. It's ghost-like when you think about it. Back on it,
Were you there when they raised the flag?
I was on the island when they raised the flag, and we could see it a couple of days later with field glasses. We knew the image was there. That's the way I saw it. Was there. It was uplifting to everybody to know that, and you thought you were making progress, but it was done on the fourth day, on February the 23rd, and we landed on the 19th of February. And but knowing that the flag was there.
Can you tell me the story about, the original flag? The first flag they raised was not the one the guy took the picture of. They actually raised a second flag, and that's the one we all see. Can you tell me about that?
I have it here in an article. The first time the flag was raised, it wasn't a large flag, and it wasn't on a pole very high. And Joe Rosenthal heard that they were raising the flag, and he goes up there to make a picture, to get involved. He wanted to be up there. But while they were doing that, he made the picture, and he really didn't know that this picture was coming out because it wasn't posed. He took it as he had a fast shooting film, and this is the film that they selected. I mean, that's posed, selected for the Iwo Jima, and it's a terrific picture, and it, for some reason or other, it just tells more. That particular pose that was caught in just a second tells more than all the other pictures there.
How does it make you, last question, how does it make you feel personally today to see that image, something that happened 50, 60 years ago?
Well, 64 years ago, 62, 3 years ago, it happened. But the image is still there. It also made a picture in my mind. And it's...
Hold it right there. Where's that sand at?
You mentioned that.
All right.
I'm rolling.
Ask me a question there about the second generation Marines or something.
Tell me a story about what you're holding in your hand. Tell me who gave you the sand and what it means to you.
Lenny Macmillan, who was a student of mine at Wilkesboro School. His father was Joe Macmillan, who was in the Marine Corps, and his mother was a music teacher at our school in Wilkesboro. Lenny is in our second generation of people, maybe third generation, but he has 28 years of service now as a staff sergeant in the Marines, and he was in the Mariana Islands on some sort of a assignment, and he ran into a friend who had come from Iwo Jima and had some sand, and he asked him if he could have a vial of this Iwo Jima sand to bring to a friend of his, and he brought this to me about 3 Christmases ago, and I have it here.
Thank you.
Just hold it up there. Let me get a tight shot, please. Hold it. I need 5 seconds. Okay. Okay.